Okay. So, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the latest Facebook Live session that we are having from Optima Arthritis and Rheumatology Clinic. So, as I mentioned in the previous Facebook Live sessions as well, we are doing this basically to reassure our patients. This is a very, very scary time, and uh, I can understand that all the people are concerned. They're all hiding out in their homes. People are worried that with respect to the infection. So we wanted to reassure patients that at least with respect to rheumatology patients, we are still there. We are open daily. Though we are not seeing patients in person, we are here. If anybody has any shortage of medications, we are couriering the medicines to them. We are answering phones daily at from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And shortly we'll be increasing our working hours as well. If anybody needs blood test, then we are sending a person to do the blood test at their home instead of to prevent the patient from coming out. We are trying to get the blood test done at home itself. And we are also doing video consults. So over video, we are speaking to patients, we are guiding them. If they're having increase in the disease, we are sending medications for them to take. So the main purpose or the main ethos with which we are having these Facebook Live sessions is basically to reassure our patients that we are here, we are there to help, and to help reduce, at least to some extent, the amount of anxiety that I'm sure that they must be having with the relation to this coronavirus pandemic. So today we have Dr. Anupama Rohedekar. She is a very prominent obstetrician and a very famous OBG consultant. She is part of the Optima team. She is currently not in India, but she was kind enough to join us by video link, and she will be helping us out in answering questions related to pregnancy and women's health during COVID-19. So thank you, madam, for joining us today.
Thank you, Sharath. It's a pleasure to be with you all again.
So some of our patients, as you know, arthritis patients, many times arthritis patients ask us that, the first thing that arthritis patients ask me as soon as they come is, I'm so young, why have I developed arthritis? So I tell them that that is a myth, and rheumatoid arthritis, the severe form of arthritis, usually occurs in young women. So, and that has, there's another form of disease called SLE, which also causes arthritis, and that also occurs only in women in the reproductive age group. So basically, arthritis is generally a disease which tends to affect young women in the reproductive age group. So it's not uncommon for our patients to either become pregnant or to plan a pregnancy. So these are all common events in patients who are having rheumatoid arthritis. So that said, we thought that it's important that patients who have such problems, so patients who are planning to become pregnant or who have become pregnant, they must be in a lot of fear. In fact, one of my SLE patients who is currently pregnant was very, very anxious. She wanted to know what would happen to her during this coronavirus infection, what would happen to her baby due to the coronavirus infection. So because of that, we decided to have this session, and Dr. Anupama was kind enough to join in. So at any point, if anybody attend, all of the people who have joined in, including Bhavya Vinay, who is saying hi to Anupama madam. So if any of you have any questions related to whatever I am speaking, or relate any questions that you want us to ask Anupama madam, then please do post in between itself. So initially, before we go on to the main topic of today, I thought we will have as usual, we have a brief introduction where we talk about coronavirus infection and arthritis. So many patients with arthritis seem to have this doubt, and wherever I go, uh, uh, I keep hearing this question that, because I have rheumatoid arthritis and because I'm on these medications, should I be more scared? Am I more likely to develop coronavirus infection? Am I more likely to die due to coronavirus infection? This is what many arthritis patients are scared of. So to reassure all of them, I would like to say that we have data from China, we have data from Italy, we have data from US. Now we are collecting data from all over the world. Rheumatologists are collecting data from Australia as well. And as of now, the information that is available to us, it shows very clearly that patients with rheumatoid arthritis or patients who are on medications for rheumatoid arthritis are not at higher risk of developing coronavirus infection. Okay, so that does not mean that you are at lower risk, but it also does not mean that you are at higher risk. It just tells us that you are at the same risk as a normal person. Normal person meaning a person who does not have rheumatoid arthritis. So you don't need to be more scared than a person who does not have rheumatoid arthritis. The other thing that people are worried about is many people feel that coronavirus is a death sentence. That if somebody develops coronavirus, that's it. The next day they are going to pass away. That's not actually true. So if you look at the data, yes, coronavirus is a serious disease. But if you see the number of people, if 100 people develop coronavirus infection, then only around 1% of them, that is 1 out of 100 people, die due to coronavirus infection. So just because you have developed coronavirus infection does not mean that you will definitely have serious complications, or definitely you will need ICU or ventilator or anything of that sort. So when they compared patients who had rheumatoid arthritis versus patients, normal people, that patients who do not have arthritis, they found that there was no difference. So if 1% of normal people died due to coronavirus infection, then similarly 0.7 to 1% of patients with arthritis also had the same amount of what we call as mortality during this coronavirus infection. So there is no difference between patients who have rheumatoid arthritis and patients who do not have rheumatoid arthritis. You are at the same risk of developing coronavirus infection, and you are at the same risk of having complications due to the coronavirus infection. So the other common question that patients with arthritis ask me is, should I stop my medications? So the simple answer to that is no. Okay. And the reason why everybody says no, including me, I mean, this is not my answer. This is the answer which all the experts throughout the world are saying. They're saying that patients with rheumatoid arthritis or patients with other rheumatological diseases should not stop their medication because, one, there is no research to show that stopping the medicine will decrease your chances of developing developing coronavirus infection. So just because you stop the medicine, you will not be protected from coronavirus infection. Okay, that is important to remember. Number two, stopping the medication will just increase your risk of having high disease. So you will end up having a lot of pain, swelling, and other problems. Number three is that many medicines that we are using for the treatment of arthritis, those medicines have been found to be useful for the treatment of coronavirus infection itself. For example, the famous or infamous example of HCQS, which suddenly became the flavor of the season. Everybody wanted to start taking HCQS. So that was initially an arthritis medication, and people found that possibly it might help in coronavirus infection, but right now it doesn't seem to be working. But there is another arthritis medicine called tocilizumab or Actemra, which seems to be helping. There's a third arthritis medicines that called baricitinib, which some people feel will help in coronavirus infection. So all said and done, you are at higher, you are probably protected if you continue your medications. Okay, so you are not reducing your risk by stopping the medicines. You will end up facing more problems because of increased pain, swelling, and other issues. And you cannot go anywhere during this. Even if you have pain, you cannot. Sometimes you cannot even step out of your house to go to a chemist. You cannot step out of your house to go to a local doctor. And the third is many arthritis medicines themselves might help protect you against coronavirus infection. So because of this, it's very important that you please continue your medications during this time. If you have any problems, you can reach out to us at Optima Clinic. We are there daily, except on Sundays from 9 to 5. So with that introduction, I think we can get down to the main topic that we are going to discuss today, and that is with respect to pregnancy and women's health. So we have not had, so there are people who are logging in who are wishing Madam. There is Yochana Gaitonde and Asha Raju who are saying hi to Anupama Madam, and they're very glad to see Madam after such a long time.
Nice to know.
So, but nobody has asked a question as of now. So let me ask the question that my patients who are pregnant, they are asking me. So just because a patient is pregnant, does that mean that they are at any higher risk of developing coronavirus infection, madam?
See, the worldwide literature that we have on corona and pregnancy is very limited, but pregnancy per se, as you said, as a rheumatoid arthritis, doesn't seem to have an increased risk in with them getting the infection. But I suppose it's also because of enforced social distancing, which seems to help them and definitely helps everybody. So yes, we know that pregnancy is a condition where immune status is a little compromised, and there is a higher risk of pregnant women getting worse with respiratory infections. So knowing that corona is a respiratory virus, I would recommend that women who are pregnant take additional care to avoid exposing themselves to this virus. So if you're pregnant, please be more strict about social distancing, because it is only going to help you. And as you know that there is no known cure for the disease now. And of course, a lot of the people who have the virus may be asymptomatic, which may be the case with a lot of pregnant women as well. Nevertheless, it's best to strictly adhere to social distancing so you don't expose yourself and your pregnancy to the virus.
Thank you, ma'am. That is a very reassuring information, or a very reassuring fact, to say that though initially we used to worry about infection in pregnant women, whatever information we have available till now doesn't seem to show that pregnant women are at particularly high risk. You said social distancing, and I really want to highlight that, just as you are highlighting. In fact, one epidemiologist had put on Twitter that if social distancing was a medicine, it would be called a miracle cure, and people would be ready to pay lakhs for it, because that is so effective in keeping you safe and preventing you from developing coronavirus infection. So, can you explain what social distancing is for people who have locked down?
So basically, it is avoiding yourself from being in contact with people who could be carrying or likely to transmit the infection. So since it's a droplet infection, that is, it is a respiratory virus which seems to spread through airborne and droplets. That is, the patient, when a person carrying the infection, when he coughs or sneezes, or even when he speaks, the saliva or anything which might spread as aerosols or in the air, or from his, when he coughs into his hand or something, the touch of the hand might spread the virus to the next person. So it's good to stay at a significant distance of at least 6 feet from all people, because we do not know how many people are asymptomatic carriers of the disease. So a distance of 6 feet from all people, and preferably from people you do not meet. Of course, family members, it's difficult to maintain this, but to avoid going into places which are crowded, where you are forced to be in closer proximity to people, is recommended for, and is the social distancing that we are recommending for prevention of spread of this infection.
Yeah, so at all times, basically, you need to maintain 6 feet distance between you and somebody else whenever you go outside. So
Yes.
I am seeing now, and even the government has released guidelines that people have to wear masks. So I see many people wearing masks and roaming around outside. So if we wear a mask, some people feel that they do not need to be careful, but that they are protected, and that they can, that there's nothing to worry about. So what is the message that you would want to give to them?
See, if it is inevitable that you have to go out and reach out to people for buying your provisions or absolutely essential needs, yes, wearing a mask will protect you to some extent. But ideally, it's better to avoid going and meeting people at all times. But yes, mask is definitely better than using nothing at all. And yes, and the mask should be used by both people. Like, it's not just a patient or just a person who is coming in contact with another patient. All people wearing mask will definitely reduce the chance of transmission by significant amount, by, say, they say 70 to 80%. But again, these masks cannot be used for long times. You can't use the same mask day after day. You need to dispose of the masks carefully, number one. And also, if they are reusable masks, you need to wash them and dry them completely before you reuse them. So it's not just wearing a mask for the sake of wearing a mask. That is
And
very important.
yes, ma'am. And as you said, it reduces the risk, but it does not eliminate the risk. So just because
Yes,
you're wearing a mask does not mean that you can go within 6 feet of somebody.
true.
You have to still maintain that distance between other people whenever you go outside. So you were telling us about how pregnant women have to stay safe during this time. That is, as far as possible, they have to shelter in place. So my patient was a little bit concerned. She said that for ultrasound I have to go to the hospital, for blood tests I have to go to the hospital. So in these kind of scenarios, in these kind of situations, how do I manage? So what would you advise to that patient?
See, we have been a little careful with choosing the number of ultrasounds a pregnant woman has to undergo in these COVID times. So the number of ultrasounds that are being done for a pregnant woman have now been very reduced considerably, and it's about one ultrasound per trimester that we are recommending now, so that the number of times that the patient has to leave home to even attend an ultrasound clinic is reduced considerably. We have to understand that going to any ultrasound clinic or a place which is managed by healthcare workers itself puts the person into risk, because we do not know how many healthcare workers themselves are carriers of the disease. So it's important to understand that doing ultrasounds should be really specific for specific reasons, and should be limited to the maximum extent to avoid people even traveling to an ultrasound clinic. It may not be a hospital as per se, but again, there are a lot of healthcare workers who may be moving in and out of other hospitals. There are also patients and other people who will be coming from elsewhere. So these are areas where there is a high risk of exposure to the virus, and hence the ultrasound clinic visits also should be limited. So one visit by about the 12th week of pregnancy, and another around the 22nd week, and then the third ultrasound may be avoided if the patient is doing quite well.
Okay, that's reassuring to know that we've brought down the number of ultrasound this thing as well. So we've got a question from Shweta BN. So she's asking that if a pregnant mother develops the coronavirus infection, will she transfer the infection to the baby during the pregnancy? And the second question she's asking is whether she can feed the baby.
At this point in time, we don't seem to have any data which suggests that there is a direct transmission of the virus from an infected mother or a mother who is carrying the disease to the baby across the placenta. Though in some newborn babies, they have found antibodies to the virus, but I think this is not in significant numbers for us to draw any conclusions now. So per se, the woman is unlikely to transmit it to her fetus when she's pregnant, but after
Okay, I think we have faced some mild technical difficulties. So there seems to be a problem with Dr. Anupama's connection. She'll be rejoining us as soon as her connection is fixed. During that time,
am I audible?
Now you're audible, madam. Yeah, please. Go on.
Yeah. So breastfeeding is not contraindicated in these times, because the benefits of breastfeeding outweigh all the other problems. So a mother who is breastfeeding her baby must use a mask at a time when she's feeding the baby, wash her hands properly before she handles the baby to avoid transmission to the baby, and all the people who are handling the baby should wear a mask which is recycled, washed, and not reused multiple times, so that the baby is not exposed to the infection. But again, let me reassure that we have not known of any neonates, that is newborns, who have suffered from COVID so far, thankfully.
Yeah, that is one very reassuring thing. In fact, when coronavirus started coming, I think the person who was most scared in my house was my son. So they were announcing in the school news and all that there's a serious infection called coronavirus. So he kept coming and asking me daily that, Papa, is there any patient with coronavirus infection in your clinic and all of that. So I reassured him also that all the information that we have till now tells us that generally children seem to be spared from developing serious complications due to coronavirus infections. Uh, uh, there are some unusual complications that are being reported now from UK, from England, but till now, what we have come to understand is that the normal uh, sort of spectrum that occurs in adults, where adults develop infection, they develop fever, cough, and then they become serious and they go to the ICU in around 5 to 20%, and then around 0.7 to 1% of them die. So that does not occur in children. In fact, there's no children who have been reported to have died who are less than 10 years of age till a few months back. There are few case reports, meaning there are few situations or one or two situations which have been sensationalized, but generally children are considered to be safe from the complications of coronavirus infection. The other thing, madam, the net was a bit this
Low,
thing
yeah.
when you were speaking. So with respect to delivery, what are the precautions that people need to take?
Yeah, it is. It has been a little difficult to to understand when to deliver a patient during these times, because um, going to a hospital and getting admitted for delivery itself seems to carry more risk than staying at home, actually, because you can expect a crossover of infection from the health care workers. So we are recommended to not to discourage patients from visiting the hospital, especially when they're close to delivery. They are recommended to be more strict about social distancing in the 2 weeks before their due date, when they're coming closer to the delivery, and to even distance themselves from other members of the family, so that they are at their best of health when they actually reach the hospital in labor. So if everything is healthy with the pregnancy, it is best to go in when you actually get into labor, rather than going for an induction of labor or for a planned delivery, unless it is for other reasons than COVID. And especially if you're having symptoms of upper respiratory infection, you're not sure, obviously you'll have to go and get tested for it. But it's essential to understand that it's better to wait for the symptoms, mild symptoms if they are, to subside before you plan to get admitted for a delivery, rather than rush in because you have symptoms and force the doctors to plan a delivery for you when you may be going through a mild infection which might subside on its own.
Okay. So, if going to a hospital is such a risk, then if a patient tells you that she wants to go ahead with home delivery, she wants to deliver at home. So, what would your advice be in that kind of situation? If a patient asks you such a
No,
question?
unfortunately, we do not have good midwife or other programs to ensure a safe home delivery for patients in India. We do not have such a setup. So I would definitely recommend hospital delivery itself. But again, there in the hospital, you have to ensure that there is adequate isolation of each patient, whether she is symptomatic or otherwise, whether she is a carrier or otherwise. Every patient who is admitted to any hospital should be, managed in a single room, when it's inevitable to be admitted in the hospital, and not to have too many people accompanying the patient to the hospital. You should decide who is the one well in advance, who is the one who is going to be with you in the hospital, and this person also should be ascertaining that they are social distancing stringently before they accompany the patient to the hospital. And these two are the ones who are going to remain in the hospital from the time of admission till they return home. You can't have visitors coming in and out of the hospital, because this exposes everybody to additional risk.
That's very good advice, ma'am. So I hope, Shweta, I think madam has answered all your questions, hopefully. We have had some Shubha Mangala Bhatt says hello to Dr. Anupama.
Hello,
Then there
Shubha.
is Srilata ji and Radha VN also saying hi. So Srilata ji and Radha VN, they're asking some questions with respect to their periods. I'm sure that they are concerned because of that. But generally, if any patient has problems with respect to their periods during this time, what would you advise in general to them?
See, I think at this point in time, the change in period pattern is mainly because of the stress. Everybody is psychologically stressed immensely during these periods because of the fear that has been spread around because of this pandemic. So when you are emotionally upset, your hormones go for a toss, and then you have these abnormal bleeding patterns. It's best to reassure yourself and relax, and eventually things will get back to normal with respect to your periods as well. Not to panic if you have one abnormal bleeding pattern. It's all because of the stress. So there is no need to rush to a doctor or try to take medicines. Just calm yourself, and in all probabilities, these symptoms will settle down on their own naturally.
Okay, that is very reassuring, and I hope that answers the question that Radha and Srilata had. So Usha is also logged in, and she is also saying hi to Dr. Anupama. Usha is somebody that I know, and she keeps mentioning about Dr. Anupama at least once a week. So I think she's a big fan of you.
Oh, nice to know.
So the other thing that people are concerned about is that of the long-term problems that children can face. So one of my patients was who's pregnant, who's most probably going to deliver. She was saying that is there any way she can delay the delivery or something like that, because she was concerned that during this time, if by chance if she catches coronavirus infection, can it have some problem to the child later on when he grows up? So how would you answer that question?
From the present information that we have, absolutely, there's no risk of the newborn or having problems in later life. So that should not be of concern at all, because even patients who have had confirmed corona and have recovered have had no long-lasting effects. So once you are affected by this disease, whether it's mild or moderate or severe, and you have recovered, there seems to be no residual effect on the individual. That's the, of course, it takes some significant time for people with serious disease to recover, but once you've recovered, there is no residual effect, and that is what we should keep in mind when we think of children who are born in these times, whether they're going to have, or who have had mild infections or carriers or something, if they will have a long lasting effect. It's very, very, very unlikely.
So that is, I'm sure that is very reassuring to my patient, and possibly for many other patients as well who are watching us right now.
Unfortunately, because the period of pregnancy cannot be changed, you cannot delay your delivery inordinately. You have to plan a delivery by about the 40 by your due date or around the due date, and because the risks of lack of circulation to the baby when you go beyond dates is much higher than the risk of exposure to corona. So if you have passed your dates, you need to go to the hospital and contemplate a delivery. Again, there is no reason for people to choose to undergo a cesarean rather than opt for a normal delivery. If you have had normal deliveries, or if there is no obstetric reason for a cesarean, you must try for a normal delivery and not opt for a cesarean. There is no benefit of a cesarean in these times.
Okay. So with respect to exposure to corona or anything like that, there is no benefit of cesarean versus normal birth?
No. Always a normal even now with COVID, a normal delivery is recommended, unless the patient is suffering from a severe infection of corona, and for her respiratory reason of respiratory compromise when she's on a ventilator, then there is need for a cesarean. But otherwise, if you have a mild infection of any respiratory infection, not confirmed COVID or even confirmed COVID, you should opt for a normal delivery rather than a cesarean, because the risks of anesthesia and exposure to more healthcare workers and their anesthetists and all will actually be worse off than than opting for a normal delivery, where your interaction will be with fewer healthcare workers.
So that's very important. So in fact, with respect to the postponing of delivery, that's a very important point that you mentioned. I'd totally forgotten that when the patient asked me that a delay of delivery going beyond your due date can itself cause a lot of complications, and that risk is much higher than any risk of coronavirus infection. Thank you for pointing that out, madam. And I will, if my patient is watching, hopefully she's got that answer. If not, I will definitely mention the same to her the next time I interact with her. So we have had yeah, so we've not had any other fresh questions. So in people who are planning family, for example, who are going through some fertility treatment, or even if they're not going through a fertility treatment, who are planning to become pregnant at around this time. So should they postpone their plans? What would your answer be to them?
See, considering the accessibility to clinics and medical facilities is a little constrained now. If you're an otherwise healthy person, I wouldn't tell you to not plan a pregnancy. But if you could put it off, since we do not know how things are going to be in the next couple of months or so, I would recommend that you hold on your plans for a pregnancy for another couple of months for this whole situation to settle down, and then plan a pregnancy, rather than get pregnant now, get into some problems, and then find it difficult to access a doctor or a hospital, or expose yourself to risk of infection should you need to go to the hospital. So I would like to advise people to just hold on for a couple of months, any plans of getting pregnant, till this whole situation settles down, and more clarity is there in the global clarity about how things are going to be, and then plan a pregnancy.
Okay, so if you're not pregnant, then better to wait
Yes.
till things settle down, and only then plan a pregnancy.
Yes.
So
yes.
that's very good advice. And so if suppose a person was planning a pregnancy, but now they want to delay the pregnancy, is there any do's and don'ts with respect to contraceptive use? Is there any contraceptive which puts them at higher risk of developing infections, or even if they develop corona infection, is there some like OC people, do they increase the risk of any complications due to coronavirus or anything like that?
No, none of the commonly used contraceptive methods or any of the contraceptive methods that are recommended have any additional risk to users in these times of corona. So they can continue to use whatever methods they have already been using, and there is no additional risk at all.
So many people, especially normal people, they're always scared to take any medicine during this time. So I had a patient who came to me with a report of her son. I mean, she sent over the email. She sent a report of her son whose hemoglobin was on the lower side. So I recommended her to give him iron syrup, and she was like, "No, let us just hold off till the coronavirus goes away." So I think people are very anxious with respect to taking medications, but we need to understand that some medicines are definitely safe, and if they are required, they're required. So similarly, with respect to if you plan to postpone or plan to delay your pregnancy, then please go ahead and use contraceptives. There is no reason why you need to be scared about taking even oral contraceptive pills. There is no reason why you need to be scared regarding those. So
in general, I'd like to say that whatever, pregnancy or otherwise, whatever medication that people are on for any illness, like you said, rheumatoid arthritis or blood pressure or diabetes, they must continue to take this medication, keep their health optimal, and their blood pressure under control, diabetes under control, and which will definitely improve their health, improve their immunological system, and make them more likely to be able to have asymptomatic infection if ever, rather than succumb to the infection and have any form of illness. So I think that is something that they have to understand, not to stop any medication that they've been on.
Correct. So it's very important that you take help during this time if you have any problems which are uncontrolled. So most of the hospitals have now shifted online. They're all doing teleconsultation. Even our clinic, we are doing video consultations for our patients. If you have requirement for any medications, our doctors are there. you can always call us up at 998-0094600 or log on to our website, and you can definitely reach out to us. We will do a video call. We will give you a proper prescription. If you require any medications, and if you're within Bangalore, we will send over the medications to your door. There is door delivery of medications. And in addition to that, for many of my patients who are staying in rural areas like Mandya, we are actually sending the medicines by courier, by speed post. We are sending the medicines because they're all staying in slightly village areas, and they're not able to they're not even able to go to the nearest town or nearest city to get the medicine. So we are sending them by post. So thankfully, during this time, India Post or Speed Post is helping us a lot. Usually, they do not accept medicines as courier, but during this time, they are accepting medicine as courier under the directions of the Ministry of Health, and we are able to send the medicines to all the patients in the rural areas. So, but that is a very important point you said, Anupam, and I agree completely that especially diseases like diabetes and hypertension have been shown to be risk factors with respect to developing serious coronavirus infection. And the WHO, as well as other various health organizations, have told patients to please control these diseases to reduce their risk. So that is very important. So I think we have covered, normal menses or abnormality in the menses that can occur due to stress during coronavirus infection. We have covered how to postpone the pregnancy and why it is better to postpone the pregnancy during this time till things settle down. Madam has also told about why if you are pregnant, then it is better to shelter in place, meaning stay in your home as far as possible till the date of delivery, and avoid going unnecessarily to the hospital. Try to consult the doctor over the phone. She's also mentioned that in case you're pregnant, then don't panic. There's nothing to worry about at this point. There is nothing to show that pregnant women are at higher risk than normal population. So just like normal population is staying at home, even pregnant women need to stay at home during this time. She also mentioned about how during delivery there is really no difference between cesarean and normal delivery, and you should always opt for normal delivery as far as possible. Unless there is some reason, medical reason why you need to go. Just because of fear of corona, don't say that I want cesarean, that you want to go ahead with the cesarean section. And she also covered that if children are born to mothers who have developed a coronavirus infection, we really don't need to worry that the children will develop some complications. So from the mother, the child might catch coronavirus infection after birth, but that does not mean that the child will have serious complications due to coronavirus infection. So there's one more question which has come in now. Okay, so this is not directly related to coronavirus infection, but I think Madam can answer this. Shweta is asking, post-delivery, when should she start exercising? And she has delivered by C-section. So she's asking, when should she start exercising again?
6 weeks is what you require. I mean, 6 weeks of normal activity. You don't need to stay in bed for 6 weeks. So within the earliest, within a couple of hours after cesarean, you can get up and start walking. When you can, the earlier you start walking, the better. And you can return to normal activities at the earliest. But for regular exercise, I would recommend 6 weeks, because that's the time you need to concentrate on your recovery, on breastfeeding, on resting well, because there are a lot of sleepless nights. So after the first 6 weeks, you can resume exercises.
Okay. She's also asking that she's had a lot of hair fall post-delivery, and when does that get better?
That will also settle down naturally, because the hair fall is secondary to all the hormonal changes that have been happening. So it takes about 6 to 8 weeks for all your biochemical and hormonal changes of pregnancy to come back to normal. And slowly, when all these return to normal, hair fall will reduce, and it's best to leave it to happen naturally, and rather than worrying about it, because worry will only increase the hair loss.
Okay. So you've covered not only coronavirus, but beyond coronavirus as well. So I think we've had a very fruitful session here and a fruitful discussion as well. So with that, I would like to really thank Dr. Anupama Madam. She is not in India right now, and despite being busy with other things and being outside of India, she's taken time out from her busy schedule to log in to reassure all of the patients of Optima Clinic, all of the lady patients of Optima Clinic, that there's nothing to worry about. So I'd like to thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Dr. Sharath. I must say it's nice feeling that I'm back in India, and I'm glad that the internet held up today. I wasn't sure if that would happen, and thank you so much.
Sure. So hopefully we will be able to have further such sessions. And with that, I'd like to thank Dr. Anupama one more time, and for all the patients who attended the session and who are asking questions. Thank you.
Yeah, my best wishes to all of them. Thank you.